insidious revenge, not just against Julian, but, unexpectedly, against Eva. Analytical objects. He began by making veiled, passive-aggressive comments, nature, suggesting that her cold, clinical logic stifled the very spirit of artistic flow. Nozomi Drotobi, noted banning and tide. Rhymed no communal apartment door, subtly critiquing her chosen pentacles for the peer as lacking soul and unworthy of poetic contemplation. One, Hirmatenting, a Biwin. He even, in a particularly irritating public committee meeting, that Eva's pragmatic, evidence-based approach to peer repairs was robbing the community of its dreams, replacing artistic vision with mere structural integrity. Ombre Emigend. Eva, remarkably, remained utterly stoic. Her responses were clipped, logical, and surgically precise demolitions of Rory's artistic pretensions. In engineering, Bidens. She simply cited municipal building codes, undeniable scientific facts, and a rather compelling case study of a collapsing pier in a nearby community. Rory's elaborate pronouncements crumpled under the relentless weight of her unflappable competence. Onscombe. However, Rory unfortunately was persistent, and frankly, rather tiresome faction. To flirt overtly with Eva, believing that by charming her, by inundating her with saccharine verse, he could undermine her defenses, and perhaps even lure her away from Julian and Penelope. Until Chinfo and Debair, Torbite, traumatized, and gaining significant favor with Professor Bloom, upon abundantly, his confusion. Much to Penelope's confusion, who initially thought they were for Julian and his fictitious male lovers, prompting Julian to issue a panicked clarification. Traumatize. He wrote saccharine, terribly rhymed love poems filled with clumsy metaphors about stethoscopes and beating hearts, and delivered them directly to her at Oceanside Memorial Hospital, much to the profound amusement of her colleagues and the gentle exasperation of her patients. Often bewilderment seemed entirely unfazed by Rory's flamboyant overtures. One whose complete roses, with a polite but cool nod, corrected the grammatical errors and logical fallacies in his dreadful poems, and responded to his romantic overtures with clinical precision, often explaining the biological functions of various emotions in tedious detail, and neural pathways, and anatomical. Parphenize, quantif as a butter knife, were as effective as a butter knife in a surgical operation. And he says, while traumatized. Julian, watching this spectacle unfold, found himself surprisingly protective of Eva. Rory's relentless and genuinely terrible poetry was not just a personal affront to Eva. It was a profound insult to Julian's own highly refined artistic sensibilities, even his culinary ones, in critique subtle, intervening, offering critiques of Rory's verse that bordered on open warfare, much to Penelope's amused exasperation and Eva's silent, appreciative nods. Unfearful Tintind was not just a battle for Coralton Bay's civic beauty, but a new, unforeseen arena for Julian Periwinkle's dramatic and fiercely loyal heart. And Rory Stardust, he vowed, would soon learn the true meaning of culinary and poetic retribution. Quiz after all do my child. Sisticha Neset reset for yet another spectacularly periwinkle performance. On CB. Chapter Haimisau, the siren of Coralton Bay and Julian's defensive cuisine. Wefaffinbly, etafetin promanation. If utterly ineffectual flirtation with Aoife Reed had, much tation with Eve Periwinkle, all's profound surprise and slight discomfiture sparked a strange protective instinct in the chef. Bite. Rory's terrible poetry is an insult to Eva's professional dignity. They were a profound artistic affront to Julian's own highly refined dramatic sensibilities. Untinterredly considered Rory romantic overtures as crude artistic plagiarism, a garish assault on the very essence of sophisticated romance, and he would simply not stand for it. On a great height traumatized. The Coralton Bay, its already ambitious scope, to include the simmering subplot of Julian's now genuine, if still deeply confused, affection and chivalrous defense of his pragmatic, unflappable roommate, Winnemby. Brainstorming session at apartment Mombun, which mostly consisted of Professor Barnaby Bloom sketching fantastical, yet structurally impossible, all traumatize. F.it. Ruby. While Julian silently plotted Rory's demise through elaborate gastronomical means, Rory Stardust unveiled his latest and most audacious ploy. Beginning a store, Gudetinglet Senway Barred Bite. Wook. A grand public performance of his most saccharine love poems, all meticulously penned to extol Eva's virtues, to be delivered directly beneath her apartment window at dusk. Honestly, in Connolly, Hoy, Tukkwalilby. Player, and a remarkably untalented tambourine, enthusiast for atmospheric enhancement, weighing a delicate cup of jasmine tea, all one in Grantly, day, onto his already stained chef's jacket, Ulmer call it. Of sonic salt, a profound crime against musicality and all good taste. And frankly, my dear, it will be a profoundly public embarrassment for our dear Eva. You simply cannot inflict such torment upon her. On into a quiet tuning, entirely untraumatized, said Eva, often meanwhile. Humming a quiet tune, entirely unperturbed by Rory's grandiose plans, having developed an almost superhuman immunity to external stimuli. Ordinquil. Monsieur Periwinkle, while Monsieur Stardust, poetic talent nascent, and his musical accompaniment deeply discordant, his intentions are morbid. Mote believe, purely to gain favor and elicit a particular emotional response, and perhaps induce a mild form of discomfort. Mort, am, honestly speaking, my emotional defenses are quite robust. Bedesibation, Penelope Sir, offered of sisterly indignation, her eyes flashing with a righteous fury, aromatized. Eva, darling, he says, making a profound fool of you, and a rather bad one. At that, Julian, we absolutely must intervene. Your culinary expertise, darling, surely extends to sabotaging serenades. You must orchestrate a counterattack. Almond eyes glazed. A flicker of pure, devious brilliance igniting within them. He snapped his fingers, a new, very periwinkle idea taking shape. Of a serenade. Penelope, my dear, a badly sung one, accompanied by a terribly strummed ukulele, must always be accompanied by a certain aroma. And often, Finchen, an overwhelming, inescapable, profoundly unforgettable scent. A culinary counter-assault, content if you will, a gastronomic deterrent of profound efficiency, in the traumatize. He paused, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. I shall call it the siren stench, a culinary weapon of mass repulsion. Ossie raced. That evening, as dusk settled over Coralton Bay, sky in breathtaking hues of violet, rose, and amber, Rory Stardust, looking resplendent and profoundly ridiculous in a ruffled cream linen shirt, and clutching a single, suspiciously plastic red rose, stood beneath the Azure Coast lofts, Ondoringen, Greece. Beside him, a nervous power headband strummed a ukulele with the enthusiasm